I'm curious, what is your biggest challenge in playing these roles, as far as just bringing them to life and doing them justice?
I mean, we talk about it. It was kind of emotionally draining to a point too, just because the material is so serious and so dark in some ways. But I feel like we kind of went into the situation, we're prepared. We know that what we're doing is very important, and that it has a chance to impact a lot of young lives. So
I think obviously we wanted to do it justice. We are tackling so many important topics that I think this world needs right now is a little bit of education on certain things that are happening in 2018, and we also just want to inspire and impact people and move people to a certain degree, and I think that was super important for us, and it still is, and we are excited to be a part of something like that.
And did you get a chance to research much before you did it, or while you've been doing it, have you had a chance to research your roles much or anything like that? And what was that process like?
Yeah, we did. We read a lot of the comics, and it was really cool. Our hair and makeup trailer actually had comics plastered all over the place. So during our free time when we were in hair and makeup, we would just be like skimming through the comics, and so we got to understand the tone a little bit and their story and their relationship together.
So from the trailer, you can see that there's some physicality in the role, but like how much training did you guys have to do for this?
Not a lot, believe it or not, but we definitely got our steps in.
So we need training.
Yeah, we're like, no, we'll skip the training. Definitely a lot of running from everything. But as far as Dagger goes, I had to do a little bit of understanding what it was like to throw. And I have terrible hand-eye coordination, so that was not fun for me. But as soon as we got the logistics and figured out the movement and everything, it ended up being like a really, really fun experience. But yeah, we definitely got our steps in on this project.
In the process of gaining their abilities and their powers, is it frightening for them, or is it invigorating to the discovery process of learning they can do these things?
I feel like it's a range of emotions, but it most definitely starts out frightening. Like you're a regular kid, and out of nowhere you figure out that you have powers, and you're waking up on roofs and things like that. So it's like nothing of that nature is normal at all. But kind of once they realize the power that they have with the superpowers, it's like, okay, we can do something with this. But it takes them a while to get there.
Yeah.
So.
You guys, last question.
Go ahead.
What are you excited for the fans to see from Cloak and Dagger, the series?
I think as a whole, just the relationship between Tandy and Tyrone and what they bring to their lives. I think both of them are two very damaged souls, and they go through a very traumatic experience on the same night as kids. Cut to 8 years later, Tandy's living in survival mode, Tyrone's living in fear, and I think it's what's beautiful is you're going to fall in love with these two characters as teenagers before you fall in love with them as superheroes. And I think we just want this show to be relatable and grounded and authentic, and I think people are going to be really moved by it.
Congrats, you guys. Thank you
so much.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
We don't start from the place which is, this is Ty and this is Tandy. And they are very different people who literally collide and then have to figure out not just who they are, but who each other are. And we started to look at what's happening to young people, not just in this country, but around the world, who are so inundated every day through social media about what's happening. And who care about it. And who are, whether it's that they're marching on Washington in order to talk about gun control, or whether it is that they're out there trying to figure out the environment, they're speaking with a very loud voice, which is saying, yeah, that's fine. You don't have to live here after you're gone. And we started from that place of, okay, I'm trying to figure out who I am, and now I got to deal with this. And that's who Cloak and Dagger always were. They were two young kids who were trying to figure out their lives. And Joe Pokaski, as our showrunner, came in and had a great take in terms of how to tell that story. When we finally got our cast together, having Olivia Hold and Aubrey Joseph, that was sort of more than half the work was done. It was really an extraordinary experience. The chemistry that they have off camera, the chemistry that they have on camera, just made it to be the show that we wanted to make.
So I had read that at that point anyway, there weren't any plans to do any crossovers in terms of what's going on with Marvel every place else on TV, but is it set in continuity, and is there a possibility that that could happen?
Well, you're trying to get me in trouble so that I'll say hashtag it's all connected.
Of course.
Look, when I say that, what I always find myself explaining to people is that, of course, it all takes place in the same universe, because they're at Marvel. They're heroes that generally, not always, but generally don't wear capes and cowls. That we're much more interested in the people themselves than we are in, oh, this guy can shoot lightning out of his eyes. Not that I know anybody that can do that. But to be able to control the dark and control the light as a metaphor for what it is like to be young and what it's like to try to get through a day, much less your life. Those were all things that were interesting to us. Now, are there opportunities because now the runaways also live in that same kind of world? It certainly makes much more sense to me, but we'll see what happens. As we often say to everyone, and it certainly was a much more easy thing for people to understand with the Defenders, is that we'd like people to get to know the characters in their first season. We don't want it to become, oh, look who stopped by in order for you to watch the show. It has to be organic to the storytelling that we're doing. We don't ever want it to feel like, oh, look, Foggy Nelson just got off the bus. Great. We want to make sure that if that's going to happen, that if we share, and look, there are always challenges when you're not on the same network, that it's appropriate for the story. And it's Marvel, so it's all connected.
Amazing to see people bring just their A game of fandom to Anaheim.
So I'm curious, so what is your part on the show? How do you...
I played Tandy Bowen.
Right.
No. I created the show.
Okay.
So I wrote the pilot and the showrunner of the series.
And what was your biggest challenge in bringing this show to life?
Probably one of the biggest challenges was casting. We just wanted to make sure we found, a Tandy and Tyrone that were kids and felt young, but also had the skills to carry off some pretty intense scenes that we put them through.
I know this.
So, how has Freeform sort of been the right home for this?
You know what? They were fantastic from day one. I was scared at first, not knowing them well enough, that they might ask us to curb some things or pull back. But they were the exact opposite. When we started pushing stuff, we started asking if we could do some edgy things. We're trying to really tell the story of a young woman superhero, which we haven't really, seen too much on TV, and a young black man who's a superhero. And they really allowed us to push the envelope and try to tell a different story. And sometimes they'd be like, do more, have at it more. So they've been fantastic partners so far.
So it looked like from the trailers that some of the origin stories for the two of them are a little bit different than the comics. Can you give us a little look at what that might be?
Yeah, listen, I think the original stories were fantastic, but for the time, while they were a little progressive, they were a little bit sexist and racist, once you got into it for now. So what we tried to do is basically deconstruct it and really make it about Tandy and Tyrone, understand who they were. Jeph had the great idea of moving it down to New Orleans. I feel like New York is covered for superheroes. I think they're okay. Hell's Kitchen's got like 6 of them. It's like 4 blocks of a neighborhood. So I think for starters moving it to New Orleans, but also just taking some more time in the origin story and really investing in who this young woman is and who this young man is in today's time. And then bringing them together in a way that is rewarding, I guess.
Can you offer any hints on the nature of their powers? Because that's changed over the course of their history of these characters as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think here's the biggest hint I can give you, and hopefully I'm not giving anything away. When we talk about how sexist and racist the potential of the old versions were, it always drove me crazy, and it wasn't really the original things, but people would be like, Tyrone is about fear and Tandy is about hope. And I never saw it that way. That felt very black and white in the wrong way. So the nature of their powers really, from an emotional standpoint, is Tandy lives on the spectrum between cynicism and hope, and Tyrone lives on the spectrum between fear and bravery. And so their first season stories are about Tandy trying to move from being a very cynical human being towards the light, and Tyrone trying to move from the fear that can cripple you to becoming a hero.
And Cloak and Dagger are a little more on the deep cut side compared to like some of the other heroes that we've seen Marvel come out with recently. Is that more freeing, or does that like burden you with backstory?
Way more free. It's funny because I'm even like, I don't give people a break when they're like, oh wait, the Vulture's her dad, and it's like you kind of get yourself a little handicapped. There was something nice about how obscure they were, because then we can kind of tell our own story. And in a weird way, it's kind of like the medium is a message. You're allowed to tell a more pure Cloak and Dagger story by not being so bound by the canon.
What is your opinion on costumes in the show?
You're gonna find out in season 1. In a weird way, the entire first season is my inner dialogue about what the costume should be, and it should be. I hope it's rewarding.
So we're not going to get the whole spandex dagger cutout kind of thing.
Trying not to be sexist and racist. Once again.
Thank you.
So no, I think that was something we didn't need to make Tandy a strong female character. So we might joke about it in season 4 when we run out of ideas, but for now, she can be pretty strong in jeans.
Will they want to come up with any catchphrases for each other?
If you pitch a couple.
Well, here's one I like.
Okay.
If they could say darkness and light, together we strike.
Couple more.
I like that one.
Okay. We'll put it to the room. We'll see.
Okay.
I do like the idea of a catchphrase.
Okay.
And how is New Orleans is it a character in the show?
Absolutely. I mean, it's such a special place, and it really helped us craft the story. I don't know if you guys had ever been, but it's like I probably inartfully call it the most European American city. There's just an oldness to it. We kind of we delve back into the old Native American histories, the Voodoo religion, the War of 1812. We're telling a story that's been going on since the beginning of mankind, and is kind of culminating in Tandy and Tyrone. So it's been so much fun to dig into their history, and really just get under the dirty fingernails of New Orleans and kind of see what's there and see how Tandy and Tyrone react to it.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And it's an origin story, but it's cool because it bounces between their origin and also where their lives are now. And it was a really exciting structure, and it was great again to be able to set the tone for the show in terms of the vibe and the feeling and the look. We really wanted to go with something that felt grounded and authentic and real, and also really filmic. And Marvel was great. They let me bring in my team. Tammy Riker is the DP and Terry Shropshire is the editor, and like I said, we feel like we created a really cool little movie.
So what was your reaction when you heard you're going to get to bring the first episode of this show to life, different emotions, things like that?
I mean, well, they called me, and as soon as they said it's a Marvel show, I was like, okay, I'm in. But then I said I should read it, and I read it and fell in love with it. Fell in love with these two characters. But what was really important is going in for that first meeting and making sure we were all on the same page of what the show could be, and that we all were, that we wanted something grounded and real within this fantastical universe, and to create a look and a feel different from any other show on. That was exciting to me, and they gave me the freedom to do that.
And what was your biggest challenge with doing this?
Well, it's 3. Biggest challenge was I have 2 teenage boys, so being away from them was tough, especially because they love comic books and they love these shows and they wanted to be on set the whole time, but it was in New Orleans. And then the other is just kind of a funny thing. When you see the show, the whole opening is the big origin and what happens, and a lot of it takes place underwater. And when you cast the best actors, and unfortunately, the best actors couldn't swim. And so it was trying to figure out how am I going to shoot this and make it feel real, and they cannot swim. So when I look up on screen, I'm very proud of what it is, because it took a lot.
What was important to you in sort of presenting the Tandy and Tyrone relationship and how you wanted it to come across on screen?
Foremost, I wanted to make sure they had chemistry, and that started with the casting. The casting process was really, really tough, because we wanted them to be real teenagers, and it was really hard to find that. Real teenagers who could really act. And it was 3 days before we were supposed to leave, and we didn't find them. And people started getting willing to settle, and the people that were on the table were like 27, 28, like they felt grown, and it didn't feel right for the show. And then Aubrey and Olivia walked in the door, and they had such great chops individually, and then we put them together, the chemistry was great, so it was exciting for me as a director to know that I get to build this relationship between them, and they just dove in, and they're just two really damaged characters who find the one person in the entire world that they're so connected with and maybe able to help them. So,
will you be directing any more episodes this season?
no, I came in to set the tone, and now I'm moving on to the future.
Silver and black, right?
Yes.
Assuming you're not allowed to tell us anything about that.
We're in the script stage. I can say that. Gotta get the script right.
And as far as New Orleans, I know Joe said it's really a character. Would you say that for the first episode, we're going to see a lot of the city?
Oh, absolutely. We definitely want to make it a character. It's a beautiful city. It also has a really heartbreaking history as well, which we wanted to incorporate. You know, Tandy's life is rough, and I mean, she lives in a trailer park, and we wanted to make sure, you know, a lot of the trailers in there have that X on it, you know, from the hurricane, and but then there's also a beauty to it as well. So to capture the color and the vibe, it was fun, and it's great when you're shooting in the same place that it takes place in, because you're not trying to hide it or make it something else.
And I know everything's shot down there now. So was there a lot of local crew on the shoot?
Yeah, we were very lucky because when we came in, we were the only ones. We got the A level of everybody. That's the toughest thing when you're leaving New York or LA, but we got a great crew, and the other good thing is they know the city. It's different. Like, you don't want to go in there and not know. It's got a whole thing, so to have people know how to navigate it and let us bring out the best of New Orleans is great.
She was wrapping us from. I think so.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank you
very much.
very much.